Hello, and welcome to another episode of Winning Where It Matters. My name is Kyei Amoako, and it's a pleasure to have you join me again. In a previous episode, I talked about failure being feedback that gives us information that helps us learn and grow. And I got a message from a viewer who had a question. So I'm going to read the question, respond to it so we could all learn together. He said, it's good to learn from failure, but sometimes you need to throw in the towel and cut your losses. When is it okay to do that? When is it okay to throw in the towel and cut your losses? I think it all comes down to mindset. Mindset. In last episode, I talked a little more about mindset, and I described it as the set of beliefs that we have about ourselves and about our abilities and about the world around us that inform how we perceive, interpret challenges, and how we respond and react to situations. I talked about fixed mindset being this belief that it is what it is, you are who you are, it is going to be what it's going to be, just deal with it. And I talked about growth mindset being this belief that you can apply information, you could do things differently, you could see challenges as opportunities that help you move forward. It's in the context of growth mindset that failure is feedback. And if you have a growth mindset, if you're approaching things believing that you have the ability to learn and grow, failure is always going to be feedback. There's going to be something you can learn from it, apply, and hopefully get better outcomes next time around. I want to talk a little bit about failure because I think there's something in here for us to sit with for a brief moment. When we think about failure, you could fail forward or you could fail flat. Failing forward means you're taking the lessons from the failure, applying it, and moving forward, making progress, adjusting things, and looking for how to get better. Failing flat is you fail, you settle for the outcome, or repeat the same patterns and just stay in that same space. Now, if you're failing forward, I'll say keep failing forward, keep applying, keep trying. It's not time to throw in the towel and cut losses. Now, if you are failing flat, you're not making any progress, it's just like the same patterns, the same cycles, it may be time for you to consider throwing in the towel and cutting your losses. Now, I know quitting is hard. Cutting your losses is hard because there's this idea of sunk cost. When you've put in money, you've put in time, you've put in resources, it's not easy to walk away because you want to recoup. You don't want to just feel like you just like gave up. And so it's not that easy for people to walk away. But if there are certain conditions that apply, right, that might be your signal to cut your losses and move on. Because in actual fact, sometimes the smarter decision to make is throwing in the towel and cutting your losses so you could apply your resources to something else. So I wrote down three things, three signs that you should evaluate. You should take a look at a test for if it's time for you to throw in the towel and cut your losses. So I'm going to read it so then I make sure that I'm being as accurate as possible. So signs that it may be time for you to quit. You see a persistent lack of progress despite the adjustments you've made from the feedback. Number two, your health and relationships are being compromised. And then number three, external circumstances have shifted in ways that makes success not possible. So first thing, you see no progress in spite of your best efforts in applying the feedback. Number two, your health and relationships are being compromised. And number three, external circumstances have shifted in ways that doesn't make success possible. Now, if these three things apply, that might be reason enough to take a look at what it is that you're doing and um, throw in a towel or call it quits. Now, I don't encourage anybody calling it quits prematurely. So before you do that, there are things that I would definitely suggest you do, right? I would say speak to trusted advisors. Could be a mentor, could be a coach, could be somebody that knows you well to make sure that you're not making a decision out of emotion. You're making this decision clearly before you call it quits. Number two, if you decide you're going to call it quits, do that gracefully, exit respectfully, preserve the relationships because the people you're leaving behind in that situation may be people you run into at the next door you're trying to go through. And the third thing that I would also add is make sure you take the lessons with you because it's of no use if you failed, didn't take any lessons with you, and go try to do something else. I think it would be worthwhile if you take those lessons with you. Let me throw in a bonus about people quitting because sometimes people move on by choice, not because they failed. Sometimes people move on from one situation to another because what their assignment was in this season is done and they have to move on. It may appear as if they are quitting, but it's just because they're making a choice to move on because the assignment here is done. So whether you're quitting because you're choosing to move on or you're quitting because you didn't hit the mark with the outcomes that you're expecting, I think all those three things apply. Make sure you're doing this with clarity and not making an emotional decision. Exit gracefully. Make sure you're preserving the relationships. And then the third thing is take the lessons with you. Take the lessons with you wherever you go for whatever the next thing is. Because I talked about the other time about changes. When we opt for changes, all those changes require a response, and you're gonna still have to navigate. So whichever decision you're making, whether you're making a decision because you failed or because you're moving on, that's not the end of the story. You're still gonna have to navigate as you go forward. So in closing, I want to add that sometimes the best decision is to stick with it and keep pressing on. Sometimes the best decision is to throw in the towel, cut your losses, and apply your resources to something else. But at all times, make sure you're making that decision not out of frustration, but you're making a decision with clarity. If you like this episode, hit the like button. If you know somebody who would appreciate or benefit from this episode, please share it. If you have not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. And if you have a comment, please put it in the comment section. And as always, you can find me at kyeamoako.com. There's information there about how to contact me. And as I always say, I believe in you, and I hope you do too. I'll see you on the next one.